ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ ਸੰਗਤ ji, welcome to the 7th episode of Sikhi Speaks. We are here today with a beautiful topic: demystifying mind, understanding our mental health. In the race of life that we live in today, we often tend to forget ourselves and how important our well-being is to lead a life of satisfaction. Today, we have with us Dr. Darshan Kaur Ji from England. She's a clinical psychologist and a proud mother of two. She has worked in the England National Health Services since 2009 and provided therapy for a range of difficulties across age groups. Since 2018, she has been working mostly with Punjabi and Sikh clients in her private practice and has customized therapy models that are relevant to their particular needs, their culture, and that bring faith into the healing process. Her keen interest in the overlap between Sikhi and psychology has made her an even efficient psychologist by bringing Gurmat principles into her work. With the Kalpurji's grace, she is also an associate for Sikh Your Mind, which is a mental health charity for Sikhs. They regularly conduct talks around the country at Gurdwara Sahibs to raise awareness of mental health and women's well-being. They have created a safe space for women to share their experiences and heal. We are very honored to have Dr. Darshan Kaur Ji with us today.
ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ
Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Thank you so much, Penji, for taking out time and being here with us.
It's my pleasure. I'm really looking forward to this conversation as I've seen some of the work that your organization is doing for mental health around in India. So I'm really looking forward to this conversation.
Marz Kripaji. To begin with it, Penji, we have been talking about mental health, but we really need to understand what exactly is mental health.
Hanji, very good question. So mental health simply refers to, I guess, the health of our minds or our sense of wellness. And I guess you could say that we have good mental health when we feel settled in ourselves, we feel able to achieve certain goals and life tasks that are important to us. A good person with good mental health is generally free from kind of extensive worry or a lot of sorrow. And then on the other spectrum, you've got somebody who we could say has poor mental health. And I'm sure that many of us have all been there, including myself, where we do sometimes feel riddled with worry and anxiety and fear and find ourselves in, I guess, great emotional turmoil. And we fluctuate between good and poor mental health throughout our lives, depending on challenges and things that come up. So when we think about mental health, some of us think, oh, that's just for people who have mental health problems and mental health disorders. But actually, we all have mental health because we all have minds.
Absolutely. Yeah. But isn't physical health enough for our well-being? And is there any connection between our mental health and our physical health?
Yes, so our physical health is indeed very important. We all know how we feel when we are struggling with an illness. Even something like the flu can have a bad impact on, I guess, a challenging impact on our mental health and long-term physical illnesses. But actually, if we think about it, in spite of anything else, our physical status, our circumstances, the house that we have, the car that we have, anything that the friendships, the social groups, if our mental health is not in a good place, then we struggle to enjoy any of that and benefit from any of that. So even with a good, strong physical body, if our mental health is poor, then we're not able to experience happiness and take part in things that we want to take part in the day to day. And sorry, the second part of your question was,
is there any connection between our mental health and physical health? So like, can we say that if we are not in good mental health state, we won't be in a good physical health state as well?
Absolutely, there's such a connection. And scientists didn't used to think that the mind and the body were connected. So you would have separate treatments for the physical body, for physical illnesses, and separate treatment for the mental illnesses. But now we know so much that they're interconnected. So if you, for a moment now, think about something that is stressful or some turmoil that you're in, that immediately has an impact on the tension in our body. We find ourselves tensing up, shoulders hunching, and prolonged periods of tension in the body can lead to serious physical illness. So when we're realizing more and more that the kinds of the state of mind that we have can directly impact on the body, and vice versa. You know, when we're not in good health physically, when we have hormonal issues, that also affects the mind. So they're both very interlinked, and there's a lot of science behind this.
That is quite an interesting fact.
Yeah.
So usually we think that, okay, if we are in a good physical health, we don't really need to care about mental health. We're good to go.
That's it.
So, Kaji, we see that there are so many barriers, just the one we discussed, like taking more care about our physical health than mental health. So there are so many barriers into to looking after our mental health. And worldwide, specifically in India, we have this stigma for psychological issues. Since you've been working rigorously with Sikh community and Punjabi community, as per your experience and expertise, do you think that somehow Sikhs or Punjabis they are more vulnerable to this stigma?
I think absolutely there are issues around the story of mental illness in our community. There is a culture of shame and blame around mental illness. The shame comes from this sense of if there's something wrong, you shouldn't speak to anybody. Kisi nu dasti da nahi, you know, when there's something wrong, lokan nu nahi dasna, and then there's the blame. You know, there is this perception that mental health illnesses come from. There's all sorts of perceptions, but maybe some kind of black magic or bad garam, or even people say use it as a kind of a punishment. You haven't done enough baths, so that's why you have mental health problems. So there's all this culture of shame and blame. And I think that makes it very difficult for people to open up and to accept that we are all capable of having mental health problems and difficulties with our mental health. So that's a big factor. And then you've got men, the roles that men hold in our culture and society as the protectors, as the supporters, as the head of the household. You know, we can't show that we are vulnerable. And then you have these phrases, sher banke, carry on, you know. And one of the saddest things is that suicide in males, 75% of suicides are in males. Because, and I think that's worldwide. So there's this sense of males worldwide struggling with vulnerability. They're not able to speak to anybody, and they see suicide as the only option, you know? Yeah.
What do you think? How can we actually deal with it?
I think we have a big job to do. And I think some of the work is already happening, you know, with conversations like these. Increasingly, the youth, because it's the older generation that have been so accustomed to holding these views, these outdated views about mental health, that as the youth get more and more involved in the Gurdwara committees, in doing presentations, setting up organizations, we are beginning to spread the message of mental health and the normality of mental health, which is that we all struggle. So other ways that we can deal with it is thinking about ourselves. What do we think about mental health? Can we deep down say that actually we can understand that mental health can happen to anybody? How do we respond to somebody when they come to us with a problem? Do we perceive them as having a very severe problem that they need to go and, you know, that we need to just put them away somewhere or ignore? Or can we open our hearts and arms up to them and say, let me listen to you. Let me listen to you without judgment. So I think it's on many levels that we need to start thinking about opening our minds up, you know, when it comes to mental health.
So if I put it this way, like acceptance is the first step to this.
Yes, acceptance of that it exists, that we struggle.
Right.
On an individual level
Right.
and on a group level. Acceptance and acceptance that we struggle and that it's okay to struggle. That it's not a shameful thing to be
Absolutely.
struggling with anxiety or low mood.
Right.
Yeah.
That's so true. Especially while talking about this, there's another very important issue that comes up here. If even if we, get over this stigma and we really wish to talk to someone, who actually to approach?
That's a very important topic to discuss because the way I think about it is that professionals are there, professional systems and bodies are there, but I think the first place to go to is to somebody close to you, somebody that you feel can offer a safe space without judgment to just allow you to express yourself. Because in our community, women are conditioned not to express. If you feel anger, no, you shouldn't express anger. If you feel sadness, no, you shouldn't express that. You should keep it to yourself. You are not a proper Sikh or Punjabi woman if you are emotional, if you have emotions, if you cry, if you express anger. So the problem is there. So trying to find a safe space where we can feel and express without judgment is probably a very powerful part of the healing process. And sometimes that is enough. It is enough to feel heard and to feel valued and to be accepted. But there are many cases, of course, when it's not enough, when we need to reach out for professional support. So in the UK, we have the NHS, the National Health System, and they have psychology teams within that. So you can go to your general practitioner, tell them that you're struggling, and they can put you in touch with somebody who can offer therapy. And they also have private therapists. So myself, I work privately. And the sad thing is that because the reason why I'm working privately is because most Punjabi and Sikh women don't go to the GP and they won't go and see somebody who is...
They don't, yes.
Yeah, they won't. And they want to maybe see, a lot of Indian women want to see somebody else who is Indian, that somebody that can understand
Absolutely.
the way that they have been brought up and the pressures that they have had on them. So, but in terms of reaching out, I mean, Benji, you know probably more about what's going on in India and what sources of support there are for women in India.
So we similarly, like the NHS there, we have RCI, the Rehabilitation Council of India, which kind of provides the license to afterwards. So they have their particular courses, their training courses, which one has to go through, which would then, after which a person would be eligible to hold a license. And this is one request I usually make to everyone, that if you seek professional help, please make sure that the person is licensed, so that there are, you see, Panji, we face major issue of malpractices here.
Okay.
So it is very important to see that if the person has the capacity, is in the capacity to really help us, to help us in a scientific manner, that would eventually help us, that would eventually help us deal with the situation that we are in.
Yes, definitely.
So that is one, right.
I'm thinking on that point, exactly. How do we know that the person here is going to be able to support us? And part of that is actually going with our instinct. Often we see the doctor as the expert or the psychologist as the expert, but within mental health, it's not like that. If we get a feel that this person is supportive, empathic, and can support us through, we should go with that feeling. Whereas if we feel that actually this person doesn't seem to be helping or isn't providing a safe space for us, then that is a warning sign for us, and we should find somebody else. Not everybody is going to be able to support you in the same way or in the way that you need.
Right.
Yeah.
Especially if mental health is so important. Has Gurbani talked about it?
Yeah, I feel like there's a smile on my face because for me, Gurbani is a mental health handbook. It is all about the mind. Guruji tells us about what the mind is, what it's made from, the 5 elements. Panth, my Gurbani escapes me. I'm really sorry, but I will follow up with something written on this. but also, what mental health is, that we all struggle with it. Nanak dukhiya sab sansar, jojo dise so so rogi. So Guru Sahib is constantly sending the message to us that we all struggle because of the fact that we are human and that we have minds. And the minds are very tricky things. And Gurbani talks all through Gurbani about how we can manage this tricky mind of ours that causes us to feel such internal conflict, feel so unsettled. And so I feel like the whole of Gurbani is just a wonderful resource for us.
It is indeed. So when Maharaj says, "Man tu jot swarup hai, apna mool pachan." So that is just my perception. Please correct me if I'm wrong. Basically, that is where Maharaj is asking us to, that is how Maharaj is asking us to lead our lives. That is what our aim of life is. To understand and identify that our man is actually Jot Swarup, and it is our man that we have to work on.
Yeah, absolutely, because our mind, we mistake it for the thoughts that we have. We identify with the thoughts, the banjor that bring those thoughts, and we believe that those thoughts are us, whereas they are not. We are the Jot Swarup. We are underneath all of that mal, all of those many thoughts that we have. We are something else beyond that. And the job of us, of a Gursik, is to recognize and uncover that, and to also disidentify from that mind. Use it, because we do need that mind. We do need the thoughts to function in the day-to-day world, to get on with our karam, to earn an honest living, all of those things. But the moment that we identify with it and believe it to be us, that's when we're kind of losing the game. That's where we fall into suffering and pain, because we believe that we are doing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That somewhere takes me to the concept that we are basically the souls and not bodies, and we need to take care of the soul.
Absolutely. Guru Sahib talks about there being food for the body and food for the mind. Man ka tosa har naam hai, hirder ko saman. The body has its own food, and we earn our livelihood so we can get that food and nourish our body. But we forget about the mind. The mind needs its food too, the soul. We need our soul food. And without that, we wither up inside. We become just a fraction of what we can be, what our potential is. So this is it. Are we getting our soul food? Is the question we need to ask ourselves.
Sure. Ranjit, this really interests me to know, how did actually psychology and Sikhi combination came about for you? Tell us something about your story.
Okay, so I grew up in a Sikh household, so I was familiar with the practices of Sikhi. So we were encouraged to do our part, to keep our case, and all of those things, which was a very good foundation. But at the time, I didn't find it the most helpful thing, because I was at home, I was encouraged to be a Sikh, and at school, I was encouraged to be Western. All of my friends were Western, and there was not really much place for my brownness and my Sikhi. So I went through a lot of identity struggle there, trying to figure, I was very unhappy actually at school, because I was trying desperately to fit in and I just couldn't. And that's where I started to ask some deep questions, because obviously, as we know, dukdaru sukrokpaya, when we're in suffering, that's when we ask those deep questions about, what is my purpose in this life? Why am I here? What is the path I should follow? Do I follow this Sikhi path that I didn't understand much about it at that time? Or do I follow this other path that everybody around me is following? And that's where the search for answers came. And that's where then I thought, okay, if I study psychology, I'll be able to learn more about the mind, and I'll be able to help others as well. And as I grew older and my connection with Sikhi deepened, I realized that all the answers were actually within the Sikhi. And the psychology was kind of just playing catch up, really, to that. So, yes, now I can't separate the two, because the way that I practice psychology is 90% influenced by my understanding of Sikhi, because I just see the healing potential that it has. Yes, absolutely. And the good thing here in the way that psychology is taught here is that you're taught a range of different models. You know, different theorists,
That's interesting.
psychologists, yeah, all the way through have developed all these theories about the mind, their own theories. And we as practitioners get to choose which of these models or therapies seem to be the most helpful for the group that we're working with. And so that's where the ability to bring Sikhi into the work has really come in. You know, I can think, you know, and even the science is supporting things like meditation. So that's massive here in our psychology practice now, when it wasn't at all years ago. So that's
Absolutely.
yeah.
Naji, do you think that somewhere Sikhi and the Gurmat concepts, they are actually helping you in your professional and personal life?
Absolutely, without a doubt. Sikhi is the thing that grounds me as a person. It gives me my purpose, right? Because you know, बहुत जन्म बिछड़े थे माधो ये जन्म तुम्हारे लिखे. Or, you know, this life is the understanding that Sikhi gives me is that this life is our opportunity to experience milap with a guidebook, to recognize our Atma and recognize that it's part of Paramatma. That gives me such a grounding and stability because life is up and down. We all experience dukh and sukh. It's like this. 1 minute something great happens and I feel elated. The next minute something difficult happens and I just don't know what to do with myself. I become broken. But with that understanding of Gurmat and my purpose, I can see that this is a part, the sukh dukh is a part of the game. And I can stick to my purpose, which is to practice, which is to kind of focus on the practice of meditation, Simran, so that over time I can build the strength of my mind and I can gradually over time get to a point where I do believe Mantu Jot Sarupa. And with that belief, with that experience, it's not a belief actually, there's a difference. When we read Gurbani, there are lots of beliefs, things that we should believe. You should believe this, you should believe. It's not written in that way, but sometimes we think, oh, why don't we believe this? Why don't we feel this? There's a difference between the belief and the experience. And so trying to have that experience of Mantu Jot Srupa as I live my life helps me to deal with the ups and downs. And it helps me as a psychologist because in so many ways, I think I could talk about this for hours, but a couple of key points in the way that it helps with psychology, not only that it gives me a paradigm for healing that I can share with others, that I can use on myself, but the principles of a Sikh, compassion, humility, the recognition that you are not the doer, that Vaheguru is the doer, helps me when I have patients and I'm working with clients that need a compassionate space, that need somebody who is humble because all of their life they have experienced trauma from people who haven't given them compassion, from people who haven't been humble and have, you know, just oppressed the person sitting in front of me. So my job is to offer that space. And I can only do that when I am in touch with the truth, you know, the Atma. The other thing I was going to say is that it also helps me to realize that I am not in a position to cure anybody or heal anybody. That it is not me doing this, because sometimes when clients don't get better, you feel a sense of you've done something wrong. Or when clients do get better, you think, oh, it's me. I'm such a brilliant psychologist that I've managed to cure these people. And so you end up in that yo-yo again. But when I can recognize and connect with what Guru Sahib says, that we are puppets and he's the puppet master, what we do comes through us from them, from there, then that helps me a lot to stay balanced. Yeah.
That is so enlightening. Praji, as you enlightened us that Maharaj has talked a lot about money. Bani is based or Bonnie talks about how to heal man, how to deal with man. Do you think that given all this, is our fund, are we investing enough in mental health for our community?
I think that it's not, unfortunately. I think there's lots more happening now with individuals coming together and recognizing how important it is. But if we think about our gurdwara, unfortunately, there are so few gurdwara that are taking up this issue of mental health. You know, I would love to see granthis and people who are involved in running the gurdwara, the committee members, taking mental health first aid courses and supporting and funding. Yes, because when we are at our lowest in our life, where do we go? We go to the Gurdwara. We seek solace
Absolutely.
in Guru Sahib's bachan, and we seek sangat. And, you know, where better to have people, individuals who have mental health awareness, mental health knowledge to support us, along with, you know, the kirtan that happens, the hukamname that I read. You know, sometimes we need that one-to-one conversation with somebody to hear our pain and to signpost us, send us in the right direction. So we need these first aid courses happening. We need groups running in the Gurdwara. They need to be funded. Ideally, we would have mental health support counsellors within the Gurdwara based there. You know, there is a long way to go. And I guess, you know, when you ask the question, is the Panth doing enough? I have to look at myself because it's individuals that make up the Panth. So I have to ask myself, what am I doing? Because we can all do our little bit to try and further this cause. You know, like these talk things that you're doing, fantastic, just a brilliant initiative. Seek Your Mind is an organisation I'm part of, and we're trying as much as we can to do talks in Gurdwara, set up Vichar groups in Gurdwara as well, as part of a women's Vichar group. As an actual recipient, I wasn't leading it, and it was phenomenally helpful when I had my children. They were young, and I was going through very down days. I would go to the Gurdwara, be in the company of women, talking about Gurbani. So there's a lot of work to do, I think, still.
Talking about individuals, Kaji, what do you suggest that what can we do as individuals, as the youth, to provide that mental health support to the Sangat out there, to the ones who need it?
Okay, so you mean individuals who are trained in mental health, or just all of us?
All of us.
Yeah. So the thing with mental health is you kind of have to have it before you talk about it and try and support somebody else through it. And Guru Sahib says, you know, when we see people suffering, we immediately want to help. And it's natural human nature to want to help and try and support. And one of the best ways we can do that is by becoming well in ourselves. You know, building that foundation of good mental health, because you know what flows from that is compassion, is an open heart, is clarity about how to go about making a difference. Otherwise, if we are not well, we are acting from, unfortunately, from our bunch, from the ego, from greed, from all of those things. And sometimes, even though there is an intention there to make a difference, sometimes we end up possibly not making as much difference as we could. So it starts at on an individual level. You have to fill your cup before you can fill somebody else's cup. The next thing is come together with like-minded people. You know, you will have friends and family that think in the same way that you do, that want to further this cause. Come together and just informally discuss yourselves and how you might be able to help people around you in your community, in your neighborhood. And then gradually, as there's more of those conversations happen, we will start to then think about how you create organizations and bigger systems to help people with mental health problems.
That takes to another question from your answer. As individuals, what can we do for our own mental health, specifically if we talk about the youth, we these days are now so much exposed to the social media. We come across so many different personalities, be it in person or over social media. And that has a lot of impact on us. As you talked about your youth, your school days and
Yeah.
education days, there is identity issues. There are identity issues. Every youth, every Sikh youth, at one point or the other, does go through this identity issue.
Yes.
What can they, specifically for the youth,
Yeah.
what can they do? What can we all do to deal with that, to heal ourselves?
I think the first thing is to, again, we talk about acceptance, is to allow ourselves to go through these difficulties. You know, we've all been there and go through that. You know, the mind is changeable. Today, I may feel like I'm stable and I am happy and I am confident with my life and in the direction it's going in. And tomorrow, you know, a few things might happen. My kids will start arguing. Maybe my husband and I won't see eye to eye. Maybe somebody close to me passes away and my world can come crashing down. It is normal for us to go through these ups and downs. And I want anybody who's listening, and if they're going through something, that it is acceptable for you to feel difficult things. It doesn't make you a bad person. Yeah, that's the first thing, is some acceptance. And I guess actually we get that from the people around us. So if the people around us are saying to us, you are able to speak to me about something you're struggling with, then we feel that, especially youngsters. So that takes me to our second point. Surround yourself with people that are positive and are helping you. When we are youngsters, it's easy to get caught up, and I'm remembering my own youth, caught up with in relationships that are not benefiting us, people that are using us, people that are oppressing us, people that make us feel bad about ourselves. And it's really important. It is difficult to do because as a youngster, you really value relationships. You want to be accepted. You want to be loved. You want to connect, you know? But we need to critically evaluate who we have in our friendship circle, and even who generally who, and friendship and Sangat also includes who we are looking at on social media. There are many positive things on social media, but lots of negative things as well. So really just having a look and thinking, okay, do I really need to follow this person? Do I feel better mentally once I've followed this person, or do I feel better actually following somebody else or reading posts by somebody else? So yeah, acceptance, check what's happening with your Sangat. Thirdly, create some kind of routine or some kind of daily mental health and or physical health practice, no matter how small, that can gradually help you to build a foundation of good mental health and physical health. So if that means doing 5-10 minutes of meditation or going for a walk within nature, just doing some physical activity, journaling, so writing down what you're thinking, doing a gratitude journal, which is where you reflect on the things that are positive and going well. There's lots online you can look at. Start to build up a self-care toolkit that you can draw on when you are feeling low. So that's the other thing. I'm just thinking, is there anything else? I think it just comes back to, you know, sometimes we don't know how to look after ourselves, and we don't feel that we are worthy of looking after ourselves, if that makes sense. We as women Indian women can sometimes be brought up to be focused on meeting the needs of other people, you know, helping others, serving others, managing all the demands in the family home, the cooking, the cleaning, making sure we don't upset anybody's feelings, staying quiet, doing the right thing. There are lots of pressures on us to do things for other people and to live in the way that other people want us to live. So we neglect ourselves. And it's not because it's not our fault as well that we neglect ourselves. We are conditioned to neglect ourselves. It serves everybody else if we neglect ourselves. So this is where we have to start becoming empowered. And you know, sometimes we confuse Sikhi and culture, because Sikhi is not about not being an empowered woman. In fact, it's the opposite. We know Mai Pago, the figures in Sikh history that go against what society expects of them and listen to their inner voice and inner feelings and act in that way. So the culture, unfortunately, that surrounds Sikhi, the Punjabi culture, is very much the opposite. So let's not also get those things confused.
True.
Yeah.
Ji, how can actually Sikhi help us in building that routine, that mental health care routine?
Yeah. So I think that Sikhi has given us certain practices that we can embed within our lives. And by practices, I do also mean the routine of Nitnem and the Ishnan and all of those things. Those are important. But beyond that, the practice of Nam Simran, I feel, is the one single routine or the task that is encouraged in when we read Guru Granth Sahib Ji. And sometimes we can go along with the routines of being a Sikh, like the Nitnem and the like obviously when wearing the Gearski and all of those things, but forget the central practice, the central task of our lives as Sikhs, which is to do Nam Simran, because that is actually the thing, the practice of that. Guru Sahib tells us, Simro Simar Simar Sukh Pavo, Kal Kalesh Tan Mahe Mitavo. So that, and science supports that. So I'm going to get a bit technical here because I'm a bit geeky when it comes to this. But we have something called the vagus nerve, and it connects our brain. It's a bundle of nerves, and it connects our brain to all of the organs in our body, our heart, our stomach, our digestive system. And the vagus nerve has a very important function. It turns off our stress response, and it activates our relaxation response in our body. Yeah. When we do Simran, and the amazing thing is that what we know, before I get into the Simran bit, what science has learnt and discovered, you can tell I'm excited about this, can't you? What science has discovered is that the tongue and the ears all connect and activate. The vocalizations that are produced by the tongue and the ear all activate this vagus nerve. And they cause the relaxation to be turned on. And Guru Sahib has told us this for so long. Sravani suniye, rasana gaiye, hirday pyaiye soye. Guru Sahib is teaching us, do Simran with your tongue, listen with your ears, and when the vagus nerve is active, so this is what happens. When we do Simran, the vagus nerve becomes activated and we experience peace within our body. And that is supported by science. And that's why meditation has become so well used within psychology now, within psychological therapy, because it affects us on a real level and we can see that. Sometimes when Guru Sahib says something, we don't quite believe it. When we read it and we think, okay, it can't be that easy, just doing Simran and you can experience peace. But now that we have the science to back it up, it kind of convinces our gentle man, doesn't it? It says, okay, fine, now we have science. We can kind of digest what Guru Sahib is saying. So I think that's very powerful. And, we could go on for days talking about Simran and how actually it's very difficult to do. But once you use the tariqa that Guru Sahib has given us, and, you have the support of Sangat, you do it together with somebody else, and you practice it, and you intentionally focus on the sound of the Guru Mantra whilst disconnecting from those thoughts that are so powerful and feel so important and enter into our consciousness. When we are able to immerse ourselves in the sound of the Guru Mantra, then we begin to experience peace. And that's when we know that what Guru Sahib is saying is truth. When we experience peace, and those moments of peace become longer moments of peace, and that's when we really know that we are on the right track. And we accept Guru Sahib as our guide then, because we know from experience. I think I went off topic there.
No, absolutely not. Now we know that Guru Maharaj is actually the biggest ever possible scientist, but we are so tarkwadi that we don't really believe that.
Yeah, and I guess Guru Sahib, I don't know, I feel that, I don't know if this is true, but I feel that Guru Sahib would encourage us to not just take things at face value. You know, Guru Sahib would say, if you wanna, you can read this, you can read it all day long, but until you do the practical, you won't believe it, and that's normal as well. It doesn't make you a bad Sikh if sometimes you have doubts, because again, remember the separation between the Atma and the Man. It's not the Atma that's having doubts, it's not the essence of you that's having doubts, but it's the mind that's bringing doubts, and that's the job of the Panch. They are instructed by Gurukh in this game of life. The mind is the player. The Panchjor are meant to distract us from our true purpose, which is to discover our true selves and to meet Gurukh in this life, experience peace, halak sukh and balak sukh. So the mind is very tricky, basically.
Although Sikhi is Khanya Tikhi Walo Nikki, but Maharaj has given us those beautiful, those strategies that we can actually apply and see how beautiful is Sikhi.
Absolutely. That's it.
So coming back to the current situation, Penji, that we are living in, the coronavirus. It is such, such a difficult phase of life that people are going through, where everything is shut down. Everyone is experiencing so many psychological issues. We're going jobless, a lot of things. How do you suggest that we can deal with the stress and also also help others deal with the stress?
It's definitely a difficult time for many of us. The life that we have built tirelessly for so long, our work and our routines and our entertainment and all of that, all of that is kind of has come crashing down for some of us. And without sounding as if I'm invalidating people's suffering, because I have to say, for me, I think I have got off quite lightly because I haven't had anybody close to me pass away. I haven't seen the direct effects of the virus. And in terms of my work, it's still continuing. So I don't want to underestimate how difficult this has been for others, in the world. But at the same time, I've heard so many people talk about this being such an opportunity to reflect on the life that we have built and whether it's really fulfilling our needs. Is life just about going to work? Is life just about seeking entertainment and going out to the cinemas and the restaurants and all of that? I'm sure part of it's, I'm not saying that that's bad at all. I'm just saying it causes us to question, when all of that's out of the picture, what's left? And that's where we have to face the reality of ourselves and our lives, and we end up having to ask the questions, so what is my purpose now, when all of those things that I thought were true are so transitory and can come and go in an instant. So you are left with the anxiety, you are left with the fear, the sadness, the loneliness. And, for some people, that is a driving force for them to change their life in a positive way, connect with Guru Sahib, connect with something beyond this world, God, and connect with themselves. And for other people, it might not feel possible to do that because the suffering it feels so great, and perhaps it's not the right time, or Guru Sahib knows, when the right time is to make that connection with them. But in those cases, I think we need to find supportive spaces again. So talk to somebody, talk to people, connect with people, because the chances are that other people are going through similar things. And just the recognition of that normality, that common humanity, just eases the burden a little bit. Reach out to Sikh organizations or any organizations that can help you in a practical sense, in terms of advising you on employment, giving you practical advice around how to manage loneliness. And I think that the biggest thing is, for some people, it's been about the lack of control. that they've realized that there is a lack of control,
Yes.
that there is uncertainty. And that's what I think this whole coronavirus experience has taught me, that here I am thinking that I control my life. I've decided that I wanted a family, so I had a family. I decided that I wanted a job, so I worked hard and I got a job. That's an illusion. Clearly there are things that happen, everything that is outside of our control. And that can be an anxiety-provoking kind of idea, or it can be a very freeing one. Because it's like, okay, now that I don't know that I don't have the control, I can surrender. I can leave things to the person that has the control. Because if we are, I love the example of, if we are a knocker, we're working for somebody else, we don't take the fikr or the jinta for everything. We do our job and we go home. If we become the master, then that is, the fikr is ours. So can we convince our mind that we are just the knocker? We are here doing the karam that Vaheguru has instructed us to do, and Guru Sahib is dealing with the rest of it. Yeah.
So that is basically that we need to focus more on what we have than what we do not have.
Yes, I think that's a wonderful practice as well. That the looking at what the gifts that we've been given in our life. Although, when we are in difficult circumstances, that can be hard to do. Because the bunch jawed will come in and bring thoughts of, but I don't have enough. Or this isn't right, or this shouldn't be happening. And that's when we have to then turn to the wisdom of Gurbani and the practice of Simran to try and stabilize our minds again.
As you've given the time, we'll quickly move on to the questions that Sangat wanted us to ask you.
Okay.
So the first question that we received, Panji, was how to get over the fear of uncertainty of major events that are happening in our lives.
Hanji, so I think partly what I said before might have covered some of that.
Right.
But perhaps I could expand on that a little bit. So firstly, fear of uncertainty is normal. We are programmed to try and control our environment, to try and predict. We used to be cavemen, and when we were cavemen, it was very important for the cavemen to be safe, to be able to predict when certain animals were about, or when was the best time to collect or hunt for food. It was crucial to our survival as a species for us to try and predict and control. So it's inbuilt part of us. Our brain is designed in that way. But Guru Sahib's taught us how to deal with the fear. And the way to deal with the fear is that recognizing again that we are not this brain, we are not just our minds, we are something beyond that. And that part of us is connected to a Galpurk, who is the puppet master. They are the ones who control everything. They determine our lives. And holding on to that and recognizing that can slightly help with the fear, I think. But it is difficult to deal with the fear of uncertainty. So the wisdom of Guru Sahib, knowing Guru Sahib as the puppet master, and also the practice of Simran, sorry, I forget this one. As we do the Gur Mantra, as we develop the strength of our mind, we can see the fearful thoughts as just thoughts. Because fear is really just the thoughts that come. I'm afraid that I won't know what's going to happen. I'm afraid that this is going to happen. Those are thoughts that are brought to us. When we do Simran, we can see those thoughts as just thoughts that come into our mind, not necessarily truths, and not necessarily things we need to buy into, pay attention to, and live by.
So when Maharaj says, Chinta taki kijiye jo anhoni hoye. So when everything is in hukam, nothing is actually unhoni, as unhoni is only our perception. So everything is hukam. So we do not really need to worry about what is going to happen.
Yeah. And still with that understanding, which is a wonderful gift, having that understanding. Even in spite of that understanding, we can still find ourselves in fear because it takes the practical application, it takes the meditation, it takes the practice of continually focusing on the sound of the Guru Mantra again and kind of reducing the grip of those thoughts to actually begin to believe that. That wisdom and understanding that we've been given. Yeah.
The next question. Most of us can relate to it at one time or the other. How to overcome the feeling of being ignored and unwanted?
So I just have to plug my laptop in. I'm really sorry.
That's okay.
Yes, absolutely. We have all experienced that feeling. And it's something very difficult because, again, if we think about our biology and our brain, we are designed to be social animals, to be accepted and included. And if we think back to our cavemen ancestors, if you were not part of the in-group and you didn't belong, you would be at risk from predators. You probably wouldn't be able to share in all the resources that the group had accumulated, the latest weapons, the best food. So if you were in the out-group, it was a risk to your life. So our brains are designed with that in mind. When something happens and we feel threatened in the social world, which is when we feel ignored, we feel part of the out-group, our body sends alarm bells ringing and it tells us you have to get included. There is something wrong, there is something wrong. So I share this because I want people here who are feeling like this to understand that it's built into our biology. So it's not because you're a weak person, something wrong with you. Our biology is designed in that way. How to overcome it is a lifelong task, I think. We feel that we are, this is a very long topic, so I'm trying to think about how to be brief and concise, which I'm not very good at. The first question you have to ask yourself, are you actually in company of people who are ignoring you? You know, because there are times when we find ourselves in company and we are being ignored and we are not being treated well. The other side of that is it more about how we feel on the inside? So is it that actually people are being responsive and they are trying to include us, but we still feel that deep sense of being ignored and unwanted? And that's less to do with the environment and more to do with a core belief that we hold about ourselves, that maybe we are not worthwhile, we are not lovable, we are not worthy of other people's attention and love. And that kind of belief can come from our experiences growing up. If we are constantly taught that we are not good enough, or there's something wrong with us, or our parents haven't given us the kind of love and affection that as a child we need, then we do end up with this kind of belief about ourselves. But if we bring Guru Sahib's teaching into this, you know, we all have stories and narratives and beliefs about ourselves, you know, and those are beliefs that the mind holds on to. Yeah, and remember the mind, the Panj are in charge of the mind. So it's the Panj that essentially are bringing these stories to our mind, creating these narratives and allowing them to stick. So as we do Simran, connect with Gurbani, or connect with anything that you find helpful on the internet, because often truth is universal. So you will find truth in lots of things. You will begin to change yourself and rely less on the narrative that your mind is giving you, that I am unwanted or I'm unlovable, and you will be able to see that mantu jot srupa, that your potential, your true essence, which is pure love, you know? So we need to kind of, I guess, love ourselves before we can feel love from anybody else, I think. But it's hard, and I'm not there. I work on that every day. So reach out, connect with Benji, connect with us and ask us, and we can share ideas and we can learn from you as well.
I guess that is the first step of mental health self-care.
Self-love?
Self-love, yes.
Absolutely.
Self-care, self-love.
Absolutely. And if we... But again, self-love is something that, yeah, we have to build on over time. Absolutely, though. You have to appreciate and think you're worthwhile in order to actually do the things that you need to look after yourself.
This
Yeah.
actually takes me to one of the points that how our itihas tells us, about self-love and self-care. So when Singhs say that I am not alone, I am Savalak, that is basically believing that yes, you are worthwhile. Maharaj is there to make you worthwhile.
Yeah,
That
absolutely.
actually helps.
We are connected to the creator of the universe. We are a piece of that. If the
Absolutely.
creator of the universe is unimaginable, is incredible, and we are a part of that, we also have that within us. So it's not just us. We are a guidebook, kind of, we are a part of a guidebook. So that definitely gives me a lot of strength as
Absolutely.
well.
It does.
Yeah.
Last question, Penji. And this question is a question of everyone.
Okay.
How to combat laziness. So when we know what is actually good for us, but still we are too lazy to do it, what do we do then?
I was hoping you would answer this question, Benji, because I struggle with the same.
High five.
Yeah, exactly. When we ask ourselves, what is laziness, right? Laziness is, I guess, it's a conflict between our Atma and our Man. Because what happens when we are lazy is that we have thoughts. I can't be bothered to do this. It's not worth my while doing this. I'm not going to be good enough. Laziness is a kind of, it's an empty word actually. There's often lots of things behind laziness. Is it fear that you're not going to be good enough? Is it anxiety? What is it? But anyway, whatever it is, it's coming in the form of thoughts. I can't be bothered to do this. This isn't, waking up or whatever it is, isn't important right now. And then the Atma is saying, actually, do this thing, do this, wake up in the morning, do Gurbani Vichar, do good Sangat, keep good Sangat. So it's that conflict. So that's, again, it comes back to the wisdom, the Gyan and the Dhyan. Developing wisdom about how to manage the mind when it brings these thoughts. Do you allow the thoughts to control the direction of your life, or do you just hold them there, recognize you have the thoughts, but do the thing that you want to do, that your Atma wants you to do anyway? So, yeah, we could talk about this all day, but I'm aware that we're coming to the end.
Surely can.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Penji. It was so enlightening. It answered so many questions that all of us have.
It's been
Thank you so
wonderful.
much for being with us, Penji, and sharing your experience and expertise, helping us all reach to a point where we can actually start thinking about how our mental health is important for us and we need to look after it.
It's been such a wonderful opportunity to connect with you and to be able to have these conversations. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Penji. Thank you, Sangatji, for joining in and always supporting us. If we conclude the session, so we need to understand when Maharaj tells us, Karhi mein amrit bharpoor hai. We need to understand when Maharaj says, Sabke chikar mein bahar na. Everything that we need to connect to Maharaj is within us. And if we don't take care of ourselves, if we don't take care of our mental health, we would struggle all along. So it's a benti to all the Sangat to please start taking care of their mental health. We as a team, as sevadars, as professionals are always there at your feet to serve you. Whenever you need, you can reach out to us. Follow and subscribe to our channels for more updates. Stay connected with us, and we shall be back with another great personality of the Panth. Thank you so much, Jiva.
ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ
ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ
ਜੀ
ਜੀ
ਕਾ
ਕਾ
ਖਾਲਸਾ
ਖਾਲਸਾ
ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ
ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ
ਕੀ
ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ।
ਫਤਿਹ